Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Very excited for this episode. She has a ton of experience in channeling and healing and in different modalities, shamanism. So she's just amazingly broad in her depth of expertise on these topics. And today we're going to go into how you can learn how to channel and channel in different ways, in different formats. And Cailin has so much experience with this just because of her life and the different paths she's been down. So, Cailin, would you like to kind of introduce yourself and the topic a little bit more, what the audience can expect to get out of this? And then if you could go into some of your personal journey that could help others understand more about channeling and more how they can bring it out in themselves in different ways, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, thanks, Jonah, for inviting me to this Q&A call. This is great to share. And I have had a long and diverse story with channeling in different ways in my life, although we didn't call it channeling back then when I was first growing up and starting out in life. But it was interesting because the question was presented to me this week about what are you built for at a soul level? And so I came up with, I'm at my core essence, it's creativity, healing, and channeling. Those are the core parts of what I do in the world. Really, it starts back at birth. I have a little story to share. And that is, it was, the typical story of star seeds reincarnating and how many people might relate to this. If you can remember back to your birth and those first couple years, I was crying a lot, just crying in bed every night. And it was always about the same thing, about not wanting to be here, about being stuck in the body and really uncomfortable. And it was just like this knowingness that this is not home. And so, but my mother would never come in. So I was always alone in the bed, kind of neglected. Was probably something from those old 70s Dr. Spock books about ignoring the child when they're crying, um, which today we would call as neglect. But anyway, when I did that, I would start making these sounds, vocals, to make certain vibrations in my throat and chest area, and this would calm me down during those difficult nights. And I was literally 3 years old. And I remember doing that. And then it would transform into these softer, more singing sounds. And I know my mother was on the other side of the door. I had some x-ray vision. I could see her across the door listening and thinking how super weird this is. But I did it because it consoled me. Now we know this as light language. So, the things that you come in with at birth, those newborn souls are so close to the other side. That's why when we're really little, we know, we remember all these healing methods that we do. So I was doing that on myself then, and that's direct channeling.
And that's
Um,
super interesting. If I could interrupt you for a second, because I've been hearing a lot of people kind of remember back to those past experiences and sort of rediscover as they become interested in channeling. And then, I was remembering the other day, I was like drawing pictures of spaceships, or I got channeled one time and they said, well, back then you were actually talking to this other part of yourself, but you just didn't know it. Um, would you have any advice for how people can maybe kind of reach back and rediscover and reconnect with some of the things they were doing back then?
Yeah, it's really important what games you played, what you were drawing, even the crying in the bed at night. All those things are um, remembrances. Because I also had a game where I was flying a spaceship. I did this when I was outside in the trees. And it was, I just called it the anteaters game because somehow I was collecting or picking up or shooting at these anteater beings while I flew this spaceship around. And it's like stuff like that. that I dismissed forever, thinking, oh, this is just some really strange thing I played. I don't even know why. But now I see that that was extremely meaningful. And for whatever reason, maybe it was ant people or mantis beings. I'm trying to think, who would those anteaters be? But as a kid, I knew that this was something significant to me. So it's in stuff like that. And then incidentally, the insects have throughout my life been coming to me. Like praying mantis for several years kept coming into my home, would hang out on the sofa or up in the lamp. One of them hung out on the top of the laptop and would watch me typing, and they just kept hanging around for a long time. And
That's
then
so
here,
interesting. I had some similar experiences, and
mantis
yeah, and,
insects.
and Tony with the Mantis Collective, he did a channeling for me, and the mantis has said like it wasn't an accident that when you were growing up there was like a mantis hive or whatever you call like the house that the mantis is in. It was in the tree like right outside my door in like this little bush.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, I would like see it all, and I'd see the mantis sometimes over there and check it out. So he's like, yeah, it's not an accident that it was there. So that's cool that you mention it.
Yeah, same. I found the similar information that the mantis beings, to not be so scary to us, they will just come as the insect.
Hmm.
But the way they would look at me, and I took a lot of pictures of these mantis insects, and it was like they were communicating. So my message in this is to listen. Listen to the insects and animals. For me, it's also birds, particularly hummingbird, or whatever animals show up in your life. Don't go to the internet or books on animal symbolism. It's going to be your own intuitive mind, your own intuition. What were you thinking at the time? Because that creature has a message for you. And so, like the hummingbird, I was at a terrible crossroads, difficult time. I was about 30 and I just threw my life in the air and decided I'm starting over. I moved clear across the country. This was in the US. And it was a rough time starting over. And hummingbird would come every single morning and I would just listen. And we had this beautiful channeling communication going. But we didn't call it channeling. That was not in the popular vernacular at the time. I mean, it's still not. We call it channeling in the spiritual community, but there's a lot of mainstream people who have never heard what channeling is.
Hmm.
So it comes through the early years. A lot of us were doing it, especially if you have multidimensional connections that are apparent to you. I mean, we all do, but some people really have it masked or buried. And then through the animal and insect world, they're always communicating with us. I've also had dead people come, like friends who've died, come in through insects or animals. So one time there was a fly, and I was working on something, and this fly just kept nagging at me, and it really wouldn't go away for days. It was there for like 2 days. And finally, I did that, stop and be quiet, just get still and listen. I said out loud to the fly, "What do you have to tell me? What is there a message?" And sure enough, I got the name of this old friend that I hadn't even barely remembered much. Looked up on Google. Sure enough, she had died the day before.
Wow.
Yeah. And and she wanted to drink vodka and tonic and smoke cigarettes. I had all these urges to do that because that's what we did 20 years earlier.
Hmm.
And so she came to visit. Yeah.
Incredible.
That's
Incredible.
another form of channeling is when people pass on, they often can come and say hello.
I've heard that before that if somebody close to you dies, that can be an opportunity sometimes to start channeling if they try to communicate.
Yeah, absolutely. Usually there's a little bit of time between their passing. It might not actually be any time because that it's not true in my case. As soon as they passed, I have been able to contact. So, but some people say you got to give it time. I'm not, it depends. So,
Okay. All right, cool.
yeah,
So
but they're
then,
there.
mhm.
You just have to trust and not doubt yourself. You just have to trust that what you're hearing at the top of your mind, the first stuff that comes in, that is the true one. Because what happens is the ego mind, the logic brain, brings in these second and third thoughts that will derail. They're the ones that say, no, that isn't true. I think it's really this other thing. And if as long as you can hear those second and third thoughts and differentiate them and know that's the brain coming in and that is actually a first thought.
Hmm. Yeah, I have those too, and I always kind of kick myself because I overthink it. I'm like, oh, that can't be the right thing, and then I'm always like, oh, why didn't I just listen to that first thought? And I'm going on like this whole tangent because
Yep.
yeah, it's like it knows what's going to happen. It's like you didn't have to take that trip or do something else if it just told you to stay here, go at it a different way. Um,
Yeah. And that's key too. Is like, are we listening to the information that comes in? Are we taking action and actually doing what they advise? If it's in our highest best interest, then it's authentic. If they're telling you to do stuff you don't want to do, that's not um, a being that you really want to channel.
right, right. Now, in your personal journey, I think at some point there were significant acceleration moments for you. I know you came into contact with the kind of the soul plan and that work at some point. Would you like to tell us more about that?
Yeah, so I discovered this soul plan system around 2019, and that changed everything. So I had been using these other forms of channeling, but never really considered myself a channeler. And this system was amazing because it shows the gifts and talents I wish I had known back when I was 12 or 13 to continue doing all of that stuff that in childhood we remembered, because at the center of my soul plan is that I'm a direct channel, and it's a rare number to have, and it's rare to have it in the center as your soul mission. And this system is really accurate and amazing because it helps you align and knowing how to lead your life with what exact gifts and talents and challenges your soul designed for you. It was channeled, the whole system was channeled from Atlantean times by this very prolific Moses and Atlantean channeler in the 1980s. His name was Frank Alper. And then it was Blue Marsden, who you might have heard of, um, wrote it down and published it in a book, but it's called the Soul Plan System. And there's a couple people that read it and teach it, but it's not all that popular. So I just love this system. I got totally into it, had to learn it, and wanted to share it out with other people too. So I've been doing hundreds of readings now since 2019, and it's just so beautiful to help people align with that soul path.
Oh, that's
And
so interesting. And one thing I've come to know in this journey is that it's really about the information that you have, and the more information you have about yourself, and like you're saying, what you can do, what some of those abilities are, or maybe what are opportunities for growth for you if you know those are there. And it may even be
right.
something specific, like if you know you had a particular past life, then you can try to connect back to that, or if you know you should have this particular gift, you can try to open that up. And once you have that information, then you can begin to take action. Can you tell us a little bit more about the soul plan system, maybe to give us a little feel of how it works, how it's set up, just to know some more
Sure.
about it?
Yeah, I'd love to, love to. But I just want to back up with because what you said is exactly what happened for me because of the soul plan system, no, seeing and knowing that I am designed to be a channel, direct channel to source, which also means no gurus, no teachers, and it's your by your own guidance entirely, which is how I've been my whole life. Then that allowed me to look at my life and who I'm being in a new way, with that
Right.
information.
Because
Yeah.
you're empowered by the knowledge.
Yeah. Right. These
Hmm.
incredible gifts where I had been doing it my whole life, but didn't know that's what it's called.
Hmm.
You see how it all connects. And so it's Star of David, which is a flat Merkaba. Merkaba is the energy body vehicle, which you can activate. Everyone has one around their body. I've been doing that for many years. I learned it from Melchizedek. Drunvalo Melchizedek
Hmm.
yeah, but he's been teaching this since the 90s. It's really vital in the Ascension program.
Okay.
So anyway, that's what it looks like. It's a
That's
star
really
Merkaba.
cool. I coincidentally, when I was in Avebury, I saw one of his flyers, and I tried to get in touch. I messaged him or something. I didn't get too far. I didn't hear from him back, but I think that's just so fascinating. So
It's all connected. It's
yeah.
just amazing. Yeah, the Merkaba as sacred geometry, and that is what the soul plan system looks like. So on each point of the star is different gifts or challenges, and the center is your soul mission, your soul purpose. And above it is the number, the creation code of how you get to the center. So mine, for example, if I've got the channeler code, divine channel as the center soul mission, above it, I have the creation code for speaking. So that is the way to access your center. It's
Hmm.
archetype is the mouth of God. I don't love that expression, but it's revealing that and it's kind of true for my personality in the world with friends and at work and stuff. I would just say the things that were so obvious, but nobody wanted to see it. It's kind of sarcastic and funny, but I'll do that. I'll say the thing that nobody wants to say. And that's part of it is speaking this truth and activating the throat chakra to be able to speak. And so I started playing around with voice channeling for the first time since, well, it's been about 5 years that I've known about this. And so I started voice channeling. I was already doing videos, talking videos, and guided healing journeys, shamanic journeys, but I had not done the voice channeling. And I was kind of afraid, what would it be? So as a test, I just turned on the camera and gave it a try. And it turned out really good. And it just started happening naturally. I didn't take any courses. I just tuned in and well, so I knew that the channel was Archangel Michael. It always has been. So I started directly with Archangel Michael. And then I started to bring in my star family, which I've also come to know in recent years from Andromeda Galaxy. So I always identified with the Pleiades, like the seven sisters were always an anchor up in the sky all the years growing up. But then as more and more information about star seeds started coming out and star families, I was able to get more information and that my origin is actually from Andromeda Galaxy. So they're coming through now very, very loud, very clear.
That's
It's
so
fun.
cool. That's fascinating because so few people channel Andromeda. And yeah, as you know, I have
Yeah.
Andromedan origins, and I've gone on YouTube so many times, and I don't know, I may have seen everything there is to see on, about the Andromedan channeling. So it's really cool that they come through.
Yeah. I actually went
Yeah.
there too. I went in my Merkaba
Oh, okay.
visit. It was pretty funny. So I didn't just go by myself. I used one of them to guide me there. And
Mhm.
it was all purple. Atmospheric air was lavender purple. Yeah, and so I saw where there was some time where I had to hover and hang out at the border because I was so excited. And I'm here announcing it, and they're like, no, 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 we have to get permission. You can't, and then we enter.
Wow.
Yeah, so because Andromeda is huge, so it's like, where are you going exactly? So I had
Okay.
to be escorted.
So I've heard there's like one main blue planet, and then there's other stuff too.
Yeah, there's a lot of planets. Well,
Wow.
wherever I was, the air was purple. They
What else
didn't
did
have
you
houses.
see?
Yeah, they told me they don't have houses. So I met them on this kind of platform. There was a whole family back there, but the ones I knew are my star mother. I just know her originally as Blue Star Mother, and then there was a sister there, and then my main healing spirit, shaman spirit. She's Andromedan too. So they're sisters and their mother, the two sisters and their mother. And I got their names and they talked about where they live. They don't have houses. Um the weather's very temperate. They don't really have a need to live indoors. So they have these vast platforms with communal areas, parks and things. And then they do have some separate sections where they can rest or get together. But it's not like everyone has their own house.
That sounds nice. So it's like at the perfect 72 degrees or something like that. They're
Yeah,
living it
yeah.
out. Okay.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I heard also that there's a lot of vegetation in Andromeda, and they kind of like take care of it and protect the grass and the trees, and even to the extent of not walking or really cutting stuff there.
Oh, wow. Well, yeah, that was another piece they told me that they don't really eat, but the plants give out this like a pheromone is the only way I could think of it, and that is an energy that feeds them.
Well, okay.
Because one time I had a party at my house in the higher realm. I've already taken up residence and built a house and everything. And
Hmm.
now I'm checking, like, is that the new Earth realm? And why, yes, it is one of the realms. My guides say there's several spheres of reality that are possible for people. So wherever you're vibrating is where you're going to be living. And so anyway, I've already got this house there and I go there all the time. I sleep there. I do lots of things there. And I invited them and they came. And I invited my main spirit guide and Thoth, who is also known as Pachacuti in the Peruvian cosmology. It's the same being. So we were all there and having a garden party, and I was serving my favorite beverage, which is sparkling water with these crushed berries, and they weren't drinking it. And so I asked, why are you not, do you not like it? They can't eat, they said. They can't eat the
Hmm.
foods like that. And then, yeah, they told me about how they get the um, sustenance from the plants
Wow. Well, that's very
there.
interesting. I've been on this breatharian journey for probably the better part of a year trying to get off food. So it sounds like they're a step ahead over
Yeah,
there. That's
yeah,
very
that's
cool.
fascinating to me too. In fact, that's one of the big signs that you are rising in ascension is the need to eat less. And I'm on that too. I now only eat one meal a day. It's astonishing. I'm not even trying. It's just I that's all I feel like having.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. Um, so yeah, I guess for our viewers, how can they, if they do sort of go back and they look to their childhood and they recognize some of those gifts, how can they begin to, I guess, tie it forward, maybe as you did to some of these later experiences of, the soul plan, of starting to channel, of astral traveling? How can they sort of bridge those 2 points?
Yeah, it's a playful journey. So, it in my mind, it's like if you have the thought, if you have the interest in it, it is meant for you. And so start playing around, be curious and inventive and try things and it'll start working. But you can't force it. It's not like something you do it because you're curious, not because you want an end result.
Hmm. Well, yeah, I think that's what I've heard about manifestation too, that you kind of have more of that playful attitude and maybe you just have an intention, but you don't, really super, super try. Or it's like you make efforts, but you're not mentally tied up in it.
Yeah, the letting go part of manifesting is really important. We can't control the logistics of how it's going to happen. You just trust, know, and believe it is done. And the main thing is never doubt yourself. Never doubt that it's happening. It's done. It's all in the works. And then you let the universe figure out the details.
Okay.
But I have a course coming up I'm putting together on the creating from the heart, the female way of manifesting, because this brain-based way doesn't work for a lot of people. I mean, maybe it does for the very linear, logic-minded people. Maybe they can do it. But for the rest of us, there's a gap missing, and piece of it, a big part of it is also daydreaming. So in fact, that's been my biggest breakthrough was with the channeling and with all of the spiritual path, all culminating in this daily practice of stillness. And I don't call it meditating because for me that creates just some kind of restrictive feeling, like rules around it, and I don't like rules, and I don't like you have to follow this method. So I just call it stillness. And that's what they call it in Oroville, this beautiful community in Pondicherry in
Well,
India.
I've ordered my spirulina from them for years. They're the
Oh,
cool.
I've been there
Yeah.
many times because
Yeah.
I lived about an hour away. Yeah, I lived
Ah.
in India for 5 years in Chennai, which is just right outside Pondicherry. So I go down there to the Mandir, and they don't call it meditation. I think that's really
Mm.
where I came up with this contemplation. The practice, the art of contemplation is going inward and daydreaming, getting dreamy with your life, seeing yourself in different
Yeah.
situations
And,
or
and back to the
seeing
contemplation,
uh-huh.
do you ask questions? If you have a thought, are you like, why is this thought coming? What is this thought? What's the benefit
Oh,
of having this thought? Do you like get into that level to try to get the mind to slow itself down?
no, the contemplation isn't meant like that kind of contemplation. Go in to contemplation, meaning whatever happens, okay, you might see the thought but you don't get into any kind of analytical logic way. You just go in, but yeah, you can go in with focus. I think you did say that. If you go in with a certain focus and there's channeling again, you could bring in answers um, from source.
Hmm. Okay, cool.
But it's
Well,
really just about stillness, creating stillness.
yeah. Well, I think why don't we do another session about creating stillness in the mind, particularly with people with racing minds and repetitive thoughts, and how to create stillness there. So Colleen, this has been a wonderful session. We touched on so many points, and I found your journey really inspiring, of the so many phases and things that you've tried, and then just the perspective um, has really been incredible. So I want to thank you, and for our viewers to learn more about the soul plan and some of the things that Colleen has been mentioning. We'll be including some links below, and we'll look forward to our next conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jonah. It's a pleasure to meet and talk with you.